Hey guys, welcome to TNCBA Real Talk Live. It's Kelsey and I here with you. We're going to be talking about the Holston recap. We had a good time out there on the water. Didn't quite go as well as we were, I guess, what we had pictured in our mind, I would say.
We had much higher expectations.
At least
I know I
We're
did.
optimists, Kelsey.
Yes.
We're not pessimists. We're optimists. So it didn't quite live up to our expectations for all of us. Now, the Winchesters smashed a really good bag.
Yeah, they did.
For them, it lived up to every expectation, I would say. But we're going to be talking to you all about the SoHo recap, and then we're going to get into our standings, talk about how everybody shakes out right now after we've fished 3 events, and then we're going to look at the May event coming up on Watauga, which I think is going to be another one that's going to be really good. But a few takeaways from me from South Holston to start out is, one, I was shocked that we didn't have anything rival our big smallmouth right now, which is Crockett, which again, that 5-pounder, that is a huge smallmouth.
But I mean,
but I thought we'd have something come close.
Yeah.
So it kind of it shocked me a little bit with that.
Lake, yeah.
And then I sat down and looked at the big fish the other night when I was like looking at the standings and stuff, and all 3 of our big bass right now, Kelsey, come from Boone Lake. The big largemouth with Fred came from there with a 4.9.
Wow.
Crockett had the 5. And then Winchester had a 3-pound spot on Boone.
That lake's going to be something here in the next few years.
It's going to be something really good.
Good.
But again, it kind of shocked me a little bit with that. So, guys, we just got done fishing South Holston just a little over a week ago now. We're getting to do this recap video. We've all been busy. Kelsey's been running around like a madman.
Oh, it's been fun.
So we all trying to keep up with the spring schedule. We did get a chance to jump out for a little bit of our own fun fishing outings, and we'll talk about those a little bit later too. But let's go ahead, Kelsey, and dive into really the breakdown of what took place on South Holston. I've got the results here. I'll pull them up so I can look at them here and be able to talk a little bit. But we'll start out with 3rd place, which was Mr. Crockett and Mr. Newland with 12.7. And talking to them, they caught all of their fish on a long A.
Wow.
And as you'll go back, guys, if you go back and watch those tips, tricks, and how-to videos, we've gone through all these things that kind of lead up to the spawn, and Kelsey and I were talking heavily about that spawn should take off because we had a full moon coming and stuff. But I feel like on Thursday night, leading up on Thursday night, we had a really, really cold night, got down into the 30s.
Yeah, it did.
And I really feel like that kind of held off some fish because people were catching fish on the worm.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Dad caught some fish on the worm in practice there on Thursday, and we'll look at that here in a minute too. But then I feel like that wave that was waiting to jump up there,
they got kicked in the pants.
Oh, just kicked right in the face. And it stalled them out really bad.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the things like the Kitech and the long A, like what Crockett and Newland were throwing, worked so well, was because those fish were still just kind of hanging out there a little bit off the bank maybe, or just a little bit further away from those beds where they were going to go. But that long A to the tune of 12.7, again, you can't beat a good topwater bite in April with the long A, right?
That'd be a good way to go, yeah.
Hey, I'll live for it every day. Then we had 2nd place with 14.27. Kelsey, I'll let you talk a little bit about y'all's day and what you all did. You all were that anomaly. We thought the worm was going to be the thing to catch the fish, and that's how it would be won. But really,
it was.
You all were the anomaly. But talk a little bit about what y'all did.
Really, looking back on it, I mean, don't get me wrong, we finished well and we done good, but it wasn't what they just weren't there. It wasn't what I expected it was going to be going into this tournament.
Yeah.
My plan was to stick to the worm, and that's what I did. And I mean, we grinded out our fish. I mean, we
caught them in the area you thought you would, but the quality just wasn't.
That was what was disappointing to me, because I mean, normally this time of year up there, I mean, Cody, I've done it time and time again. Go up there and catch several over 4 pounds, you know, and with ease.
Yeah,
a lot of times.
They're
just up there ready
and they keep
to eat.
coming. They're moving up.
Yeah, and I mean, we couldn't break anything over 3.25 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, we had 3 fish that were all within. Well, if you look at our bag, out of all the fish we had, there was less than half a pound between our smallest fish and our biggest fish.
Now, see, that's still some great consistency.
Yes.
But like you said, you're kind of thinking it's going to be probably a half a pound heavier than that this time of year and stuff. So you caught them in the area you thought you were. You did catch them on the worm, but the quality wasn't there. Did you Did you fish a little bit deeper? Because it's hard once you get into the tournament situation. Like you're fishing and hours are ticking by, and you're just in your head. You're sitting there thinking, it's going to be there, it's going to be there, it's going to be there. But then did you go, okay, I need to fish a little bit deeper, I need to go with a little bit heavier weight? Or
well, the thing was the bite wasn't that bad. It was just finding the good sized fish.
Right.
That was the thing. Like we had a good day. I mean, we had a good,
because you all actually got to cull a little bit.
Yeah, we culled I think we culled like 4 fish.
Yeah.
But I mean, very, very small culls, more or less. I mean, they were stair stepping.
Yeah.
Very small stair stepping, but I mean, we were getting there.
Yeah.
But the thing was it was the bite wasn't bad. That was the thing about it. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't as great as I've seen it in the past. I mean, you know, when it's on, and I mean, it's,
and hindsight's always 20/20. You get to sit here and we get to talk about it, and you're like, well, maybe if I'd have worked that worm out into that 7 to 10 foot range, but maybe there were some laying out there a little bit better.
Going back to what you were asking, though, no, most of our fish came very shallow. I mean, they were up against the bank a lot. I mean, heck, there was one fish that I worked on for a good hour and a half. I mean,
so she was locked on heavily.
This one was locked on. I mean, it was one of our better culls. It was a 3-pounder.
Yeah.
But the thing is like we made a pass. I got bit. I threw in there probably 20 or 30 times, and it bit just about every time.
That's frustrating.
And it was so frustrating. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a break. And we go up the bank, and then we start working our way back down, and I keep getting bit again. And then same thing, 20, 30 cast, give it up, go back. And then we work our way back down the bank and come back up again. She starts doing it again. About the third trip up, I mean, like I said, I worked on that fish for probably, I mean, you look at all the time I spent on it, I probably spent about an hour and a half on that fish and probably made over 100 casts at that fish before.
But going back and forth, you
bit.
would move off of it and you'd come back to it and stuff.
Yes, I knew exactly where that fish was at. Right. I mean, there was a little tree and a little curl in it, and I could see a dark spot in the rocks that were under the water, and that's where that fish was sitting. It was right in that crevice. Yeah. And I mean, that's key this time of year, because
just remembering that cast and that
remembering where it is, line it up, and even another thing that I noticed, it would quit biting at times.
Yeah.
And then I would come back to it and cast from a different angle, same spot, different angle, and that was the difference. Sometimes that it would because it would quit biting, and then I would change my angle up a little bit, and it would bite again. So it just depended on which way she was facing too. A lot of times is what I think.
That is true. Well, so that worked out for you all to the tune of second place.
Yes,
they were 14 pounds, able to make some upgrades throughout the day. Thinking back, could have possibly adjusted a little bit.
I wished I would have made the adjustment that some people made.
That the Winchesters made. So now we'll jump to our winners. And the Winchesters, they made that right adjustment. And I told Kelsey after we got done fishing, like, what was so frustrating about it all was the fact that we sat here and literally talked about what these fish do as they're leading up. They're going to sit out here in the middle of these pockets. They're going to sit around these bait balls. Okay. And all you got to do is get out there and throw you a swim bait around them. And then they're just going to go to the bank and they're going to spawn. Well,
we're strong-headed that way.
Yeah, we're just mules. The Winchesters figured that out, and they figured it out to the tune of $18.75 for the win. They had 2 4-pounders, so 2 bonus fish, 2 bonus points there for them.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to compete against later on in the year.
Yeah, just saying. Yeah. You keep on throwing some bonus points in there and stuff, and we might see a bag a little bit bigger on Watauga, possibly, but $18.75 that's a very, very stout, healthy bag. So what they did is they started out near you. Mm-hmm. They started out throwing the worm. They struggled.
Finished out not too far.
Out not too far from you. That makes you mad that it was right there under your nose, Kelsey. Mm-hmm. I'll rub it in just a little bit because I missed it too.
And the thing is like, you know, I saw the signs and I ignored the signs, and I'm just like, that's where I kicked myself, because it's like I saw them. I knew they were out there.
So they pulled out. They moved on. They moved on around from Kelsey there, and they pulled into the middle of a pocket. And lo and behold, there those bait balls are. And they caught. They said that it was caught several fish, tons of fish that day. And we're sitting there just culling up and catching some good ones and stuff. All of this going on a Kitech. Again, it's in a spawning pocket. That dark shell is right there around it, that dark slate. But they're just sitting out in the middle around these bait balls waiting to move in, and they're feeding up before they spawn. But I think one of the keys was a little bit lighter head, because the bait balls were sitting. And when I got to go back out and go fun fishing that Monday following, I got to see it. Those bait balls were sitting really high in the water column.
Yeah.
Those fish that were feeding on them, they were not 15, 20 feet. They were 5 to 10. So that little bit lighter head was a big deal. But they caught those fish out from around those bait balls using their live scope and stuff. And that live scope has made that type of technique and targeting those fish a much quicker and more efficient.
He said about 98% of the fish that they caught, they saw.
He watched them
come up and eat them. And I mean, that's how can you compete against that? I mean,
it's tough. It's tough.
It's fun.
And that's the biggest thing. Excuse me, guys. It's addicting. Like it is so fun and it's super addicting. And
like a kid in an iPad.
Just sitting there watching like a video game. But I look at that. So they caught them out in a true pre-spawn situation. Those fish were schooled out there. I think that cold night on Thursday really, really helped that situation and put us in that perspective of having a really good pre-spawn bite. Those fish that were up on beds had already committed, I think, before Thursday or before that nighttime, and they stayed locked on. They stayed up there. Because even Dad and I caught our last 2 keepers of the day on the bed, on the worm. So they were coming. They were starting to move up. But again, you see 3 very different techniques in that top 3.
Fishing up here is just like the weather up here.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place.
If you don't like it, it'll change.
Oh, it'll change very shortly.
It's completely different from one place than it is the other. I mean, it could be snowing up on the mountain and it's sunny down here
down the valley. So you have winning the event. The pattern was targeting pre-spawn smallmouth with a Kitech with a small swim bait, light head. Around bait balls out in the middle of the pocket, in a spawning pocket. Second place was fish that were locked onto bed with a green pumpkin worm, 4.5-inch worm, 1/8 ounce tungsten weight, and just really soaking that bait and working it slow. And then third place, you had a top water deal. You had a long A bite, again, around these spawning areas.
Go do what you want.
You want to do this time of year. But again, three very different techniques that were giving people the wins in these events.
Very effective.
So Kelsey, what I want to jump into now, I'm going to kind of walk through practice here and talk about this for a second.
Okay.
And look at not just practice. I'm going to talk about what Dad and I did in practice and looked at. And then there's also some video here of the tournament day. Guys, hopefully that tournament video, that Chasing Ghost video, again, if you haven't looked at that series, Chasing Ghost is... These fish are moving all the time, and sometimes you go out there and practice, and you think you're on them, and then they're gone. It's just like ghosts. They just disappeared on you. So the Chasing Ghost is our breakdown of what we were thinking on the lake that day, kind of walking through the changes we made. So check that series out on YouTube as well. But I'm going to pull up this video right now to show y'all, and we're going to kind of talk through it. Make sure our audio is good here. Yeah, y'all are still getting us. So me and Dad in Thursday on practice, we went up, sunny conditions, and that's another thing that I've got to keep telling myself is like pay attention to the change in the conditions, because right here what you see is we're back in the flat in Josiah Creek where there's river rock and there's stumps and it's a sunny day, and those fish have pulled up in there where it's really warming up. And you see me catch one on that Jackal Gantia swim bait, that hard body swim bait. And then right here, what you see is I'm really looking closely at a fish that I saw move across the flat. And I saw her actually go back. And when she goes back, I'm able to point her out to Dad. And he turns around with the worm behind me because she had flashed on the hard swim bait. And that was one thing we talked about in that tips, tricks, and how-to video. They'll show themselves. You may not always catch them. But again, you know where they're at.
That's why that is such a good search bait.
Yeah.
Because... I remember I've watched several videos on it. I've not perfected it. I've not even caught a fish on it yet, but I want to, and I'm wanting to learn more. But that's what they say. I mean, what I've learned from it, fish can't not follow that bait, check it out, because it is just it's just so
intriguing to
them. Yes.
So it pulled him up there, and then Dad here turns around with the worm and goes in behind me and catches this fish on the worm. So we catch several fish on this flat. And the mindset in practice is I want to get ahead of the fish and come back to them. So if I think they're going to spawn, the biggest thing for me is I wanted to get to the backs of these pockets or onto these flats and then work my way back out to them. Now, Kelsey, this is actually video from you all at during the tournament, and you can see that slate rock and stuff, and you can see some of the kind of the different levels and layers and ledges that you have with these banks that you're fishing this worm on, and working that thing so slow. So slow.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to keep it, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think this is it.
This is not her.
But it's close to that area. I'm just saying,
Right.
because I mean, and that's the thing. The fish were they were locked on somewhere, but they were in such a small area. Like, there was just hot points on that bank. Like, we could go so far back into this point, back into this little pocket, and they wouldn't bite. There was no bites, but they were out there, you go up towards the front, not so much on the very front, but in that middle section.
Yeah,
that's where they were hanging out. So, I mean, it was just really weird. How they were.
And now in this video, you're seeing the complete opposite. This is on tournament day now for Dad and I, and we're fishing the islands there near Jumping Rock, kind of towards the middle of the lake, or down towards the dam here.
Yes.
And I've located kind of a brush pile, and I've seen on Panoptics that there's a lot of fish around it. So I'm throwing the Kitech out over top of it, letting it sink down and bringing it above them. Dad had caught a really good one on the worm here on this corner in practice, so we were fishing for it, and while he was trying to get that fish to bite, I was sitting out here fishing for these fish that were still definitely pre-spawn. They were hanging out off the side here. So that just goes to show you how those fish were in all stages during this time. Now you see that it's really sunnied up. Later on in the day. Did you all see a difference? Was your bite better that morning? Was your quality coming more in that morning, or did you get a few more bites here later in the day?
It was all over the place, really. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Dad caught a lot of the fish that day.
Well, I was noticed that when I was going through y'all's video, like he did catch a lot of them.
Yeah, but no, it was kind of just sporadic throughout the day. I mean, there were little lulls here and there.
Yeah.
But no, there was no real big difference to whether it was sunny or cloudy with our bite.
And guys, notice again, just as you watch these videos, or even if you go back, just how softly, how slowly he's working that down through there, making sure that he's catching each ledge as he goes on down through there, and to get those bites. Now here's a little bit later, or actually kind of midday. I'd left Dad to run to church for an Easter egg hunt with the girls, and he's by himself here, but he's back in Riddle Creek, and there's a flat on the left side here that comes out and has just some river rock on it. And you see he gets blown up here on the long A. So we caught fish on Kitechs, long A's, and worms. We kind of did a mixture where you all stuck with one thing, and then Crockett and them stuck with one thing, and the Winchesters were all Kitech. We kind of did all three things. But he caught this back here where those fish were kind of moving up onto those flats. And that's what we kind of found in practice. But what I wanted to go back to was the changes in weather. I shouldn't have started back in Josiah Creek, because
we had rain that
morning. It was very dim, low light, and I really feel like what had those fish up there in practice, and I should have known better. I should have thought it through. I should have been like, go back there later. But you catch 4 or 5, and guys, you'll see that in the Chasing Ghosts video when I drop it later this week, that we caught several on that flat there in just a very short time. So it was hard to say don't go there right now. It was hard to say don't start there in the morning.
It's always tough. We get a plan. We want to see it through. And it's just not the right time. I mean, that's the thing.
And so I shouldn't have started back there. I should have gone to it later in the day. What hurt me and killed me, though, was like we went back in there, and all of a sudden several other boats came in, so I knew other people had been back there fishing and stuff on Good Friday when people were off. And so I changed up from the glide bait because I didn't have a lot of light, and I was throwing a drop shot around where I knew those stumps were at, and I was working in and caught our first fish and got it hooked up, and then my reel back reeled on me, and it just blew line all over the place. And I went to reel some more and couldn't, and by the time I went to try to hand line it in, he was gone. So that got me frustrated. So we finally got out of there and went and did some Kitech stuff to get our first keeper. But the thing was, guys, remember those conditions. If you catch them in practice in a certain way, there's something about those conditions that has it just right. So instead of me going back there first thing and trying to force that swim bait or trying to force that flat to work for me, I really should have rethought that and come back to that later on in the day when that sun finally did come out, like you saw in Kelsey's video, and tried to let those conditions get right. I had the same thing happen to me at a Tennessee Team Trail deal down on Chickamauga. We had caught fish on this little point, with a frog late in the day.
Yeah.
And the first day, I tried to go there first thing, never got a sniff. The second day, I totally rearranged it back to the way we found them in practice, and we had a really late draw, came in, it was like 4:30 or something. We're coming back up that way, pull in there, and catch 4 fish just like that on the rattle trap. You've got to remember what the conditions were in practice and what the situation was, because there was something about that was making it perfect for what you found.
And it's like these fish can be predictable, but we have so many different things that go through our mind. We make it difficult.
Like you said, we try to force certain things. So let's take a look really quick at the points here. I'm going to pull up our current standings, guys. So after 3 events, we have Wayne Winchester leading with 152 points. You have Dave Crockett in second with 148. Reg Edwards with 146 in third. Andy Hodges with 146 in fourth, or technically third as well. And Keith Lester also tied. We have 3 there tied with 146 points. And then Steve Legg with 142 points.
It's the beginning of the year. It shouldn't be this tight.
I know. It is super tight there at the top for the top 6. And guys, you can check out all those full standings there on the website at tncba.com. Go check those out and look at those. So again, we're off to a really good start. The competition is really tight. The points, it's going to be a great battle throughout. We've got Watauga coming up. Then we go to our out-of-town at Gunnersville. Then we got a night tournament on Douglas late in June. So we've got some really good tournaments still to come. And we had talked about how this stretch right here was my favorite. Holston April, Watauga May, Gunnersville, and then Douglas there in June. And those things are going to be great. I think we're going to have a blast at those tournaments. Yeah. I think it's a really, really good lineup. Guys, we want to say thank you again to Tri-C Logistics, who was our sponsor, our title sponsor for this event. Again, we have a lot of great partners with us this year. They've done a lot to help us out, and we can't thank them enough for sponsoring that event up there on Holston, guys. Moving Associates is going to be our sponsor for the Watauga event. That's a new one that came on board with us this year. We want to say thank you to them for sure. But, guys, we are going to go ahead, kind of wrap up this section of the show where we've talked about Holston, talked about what the top 3 were doing, what we were doing. Like I said, check out that TNCBA Chasing Ghost episode that's going to drop a little bit later this week. It's going to recap practice for me on Holston, and then go through our fish catches on tournament day and kind of recap exactly what I was thinking and the changes I was making. And you get to have a little bit of hindsight with that too with that video. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to preview Watauga and talk about our days of fun fishing up there on Holston that came a little bit later, and just how those went for us and how things might have changed or not changed in that time. So guys, we will see y'all here in just a sec. TNCBA Real Talk Live is brought to you by Tri-City Logistics, Uncle Ray's Beyond Good, and Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union.
Today's the day to explore the journey ahead. Enjoy life's little moments, because they're all around us, in every smile and in every laugh. Cherish the moments that will last a lifetime. With a partner that lasts a lifetime. Enjoy every moment.
Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. Join us now.
All right, guys, so welcome back. We're back for this second segment of our TNCBA Real Talk Live show. So, Kelsey, I got to go up there, and this was I've had days like this after BFLs before where it didn't go so hot during the BFL, but let's talk a little bit about just our fun fishing outings that we made up there to Holston the week following.
Well, I'll say yours was drastically different from mine. Okay?
That it was. I'm not gonna lie.
We'll just go there.
I loved my day. I can't say anything. The only bad thing I can say about my day is like it might not have been the smartest thing with it. Yeah, that it did have to end. That was pretty rough. But on that Monday following, we still had a day off from school to run up there. I really thought about canceling on Dad because the weather, I was exhausted from the weekend and running around, and the weather was
going to be nasty.
Horrible. I mean, it was like it never got above 55.
We have said this time and time again. Those fish on that lake love it when it's nasty.
They love it nasty. And we got up there on Monday, and we go looking for these fish that are out in these pockets that are staged up around bait, and we find them. And they're still there set up that way. And that morning, the bait was right in the middle of the pocket.
Yeah.
And so we're catching them. We catch some good ones. And then we leave there. We go check some other areas. We come back to it a little bit later in the day, and the bait has changed. They move over to the bank, and there's some big laydowns, and they're hanging around those big trees. But you're still able to throw that Kitech above that bait ball and get bit. We then left there and caught some on the worm a little bit later, so there were some more still pulling up. But I will say this. One of our better ones in that spawning area, I did have to work it out deeper. That fish probably came out about 10 foot of water. Still on the worm, still on that green pumpkin worm, 1/8 ounce weight. But I really had to soak it out into that 7 to 10 foot range. Dad had caught a couple in that little stretch up shallow, and then I had to pull it out there a little bit deeper. So, guys, if you're heading up to Holston and stuff right now, those fish that were out there around those bait balls, I feel like that's gone now.
I think it's a dying pattern. You may still find them, but
you're not going to find much because the water has warmed up a lot.
Yes, with the heat we're having right now,
those fish are moving up shallow.
We've had a little bit cooler day today, and it's going to be in the 60s, mid 60s all week.
But still, that water jumped. What water temperature? Because you finally went up, and we had a really good day on that Monday when it was nasty and stuff on the Kitech and a little bit on the worm. But then as the week progressed, I started hearing more and more about worm catches, but I still think a little bit of yours when you went up Saturday was also just the boat traffic and the amount of pressure that's been up there.
I think the pressure had a lot to do with it. We had a lot slower day, but we only fished from about 5:45 in the morning until about 11 o'clock. So didn't catch a lot of fish, but every fish we did catch was a keeper.
And you said later on in the day.
Later, as the day went on, the bite got better. There towards the end of the day, the end of our day.
Yeah. You were getting some more bites.
We started heck, we caught the majority of our fish right there at the end of the day. It was a grind that morning. It was just slow, and I was thankful for the fish that we caught the week before. Yeah. To be honest with you, because I was like, man, yeah, this could have been real bad.
And that's the thing, guys. So as you're heading up there and stuff, there's going to be waves moving in and waves moving out. You might get in there on a section that it's all buck bass now. The big girls have moved out,
that's
or
that's
they're
what
coming.
we were doing.
You were catching a lot of bucks.
2-pounders.
So you're still right now at this point in the month. You're looking at the spawn. You're looking at that green pumpkin worm. Again, Kitech's still going to catch fish all the time that you can go out there and throw it. You may start focusing on some of those points as fish are starting to come out now too. But the worm bite's definitely going to keep building as this warm weather comes in here and all this stuff's warming up. So if you get a chance to get out there, especially if you get a chance to go out in the middle of the week, or weather's a little bit off, again, they like some weather coming in, some rain and stuff, some overcast. So don't be afraid of that. Boat pressure is going to affect how things go for you. These fish are not stupid. They know when there's a bunch of fish, bunch of baits and things flying past their head and boats running around above them. But anyways, get out there and check it out and go fish for those bed and smallmouth. But Kelsey, let's turn our attention to Watauga. And guys, if you're watching, drop us a comment on what you think is going to go down at Watauga. What you think might be the winning pattern, or what you think might be the winning weight. Just drop that into Facebook or YouTube.
I don't think there's going to be a pattern.
I don't think. Well, that is one thing about May. That is one thing about that time of year. Yeah. It's just throw it out there.
I think it's trash fishing this time.
That is true. It is much of a junk fishing.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see, similar to kind of what we saw with 3 different patterns going on here, or 3 different techniques winning, finishing the top 3. I think there's going to be a lot of different stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
Because our lakes, South Holston and Watauga, warm up slower than Douglas and Cherokee by quite a bit. Just by volume, it takes longer for those lakes to warm up. So there's a very high likelihood that we're going to have some smallmouth still on the beds.
Yes.
During that time, we're going to see some spawning fish caught. You're going to have largemouth in the river might have already really gotten into their spawn in good ways. They may be going post-spawn. They may be just going on the beds.
I think you're going to catch them in mostly spawn or post-spawn.
Spawn and post-spawn. I would agree with that. I think one thing is you're going to catch them 0 to 7, 0. I don't think it's
you're going to find anything deep.
It's not going to be a deep bite. Even if you're throwing a Kitech or a swim bait or something like that, I think you're going to be around some of these laydowns and stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like you said that, and there still could be some pre-spawners sitting out on those trees.
Very well, yeah.
But I'm going to focus in, as I go up there, I'm going to really focus in around laydowns and cover. for those fish. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're going to do.
Swim bait again, that big old hard swim bait. And if I keep on watching Kevin Stevenson up there smashing some big ones on the glide bait, I'm gonna have to go up there and steal his glide bait for a little while and find some of those big largemouth around some docks or around some laydowns and stuff.
If he comes up there, the plan's just to follow him.
Yeah, where are you going, buddy? I'm just going to see where you're going. Okay, I got you now. But one thing that we have noticed different about Watauga, guys, is as you head up there, if you're going to throw the worm, it seems like that hard clay.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the dark shell, the black slate
No,
like we
it
see
does
on
play
Holston.
different, yes.
It plays a little bit different. I've caught a lot of the worm fish that I've caught up on Watauga on that harder clay, and you'll just be going down the bank and you'll see it there that it'll change over bright red, bright orange, but it's just it almost looks like a rock.
Yeah.
It's just a super hard clay, and you'll catch them there on the worm. We know that there's a really, really good population of largemouth and spotted bass in there as well to go chase. I think that between the worm, I think a spinnerbait, a jerk bait comes back around really good now that we're getting a little bit closer to that post spawn. And again, guys, we're talking about top water, that popar that we just did a video on that'll drop later. You're getting into that post spawn again. We're talking about May 21st is this event, so I think we're going to see those fish hanging around that cover, whether they're moving in or coming out to heel up. Don't think you're going to see a shad spawn yet on Watauga. I think there'll be one on Douglas and Cherokee going on about mid-May, but Watauga seems to be later.
It could be close.
It could be close.
Who knows? I mean, with this weather that we been having,
yeah.
I mean, if we keep getting these warm days and everything like that, it could be pretty close.
And I went back and looked at the date on the video. We fished 1st of June last year on Watauga when you were flipping that wacky rig around
June
and
5th.
Stuff. And you had some fry garters and stuff there. So those fish were just kind of wrapping up their spawn at that point of early June. So I expect to see that similar thing of a wacky rig, that big hard swim bait or glide bait, the spinner bait and stuff are going to play really well. The key is just, I think, on these tournaments where a lot of us are weekend anglers, we get out there the weekend before maybe, or we don't even get out there at all. We just show up and fish.
That's my game.
That's your game plan. I think the biggest thing is to make some adjustments on the fly. That's going to be the person that seems to do really, really well. I'm hoping that we get a just nice warm morning too.
Well, if you go back to our tournament up there last year in June, it was 1st of June, end of May. Wacky rig, spinnerbait, popar. Those were what our fish came off of. So I mean, like I said earlier, it's trash fishing in a way, but I mean, I do feel like it's going to be kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out there and do what you want.
For sure.
Keep it shallow and go.
Hey, Elsie Pearl, I see you on there commenting with Mama. You need to tell me what I'm going to catch my fish on, baby. You gave me 3 acorns when I went to Norris, and I only caught 3 keeper fish that day. I need you to get me 5. Okay, you go find me 5 acorns to ride around in the boat with me all day, and maybe find me like some big walnuts too. I need those fish to be a little bit bigger than they were on Norris. But hey, baby girl. So now let's talk about this. We talked about the pattern a little bit. Let's talk about what you think. What do you think the weights are going to be? Do we continue with our optimism, Kelsey, or do we
Heck yeah, we do.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's just go with it.
Swing for the fences. Swing for the fences.
You know just as well as I do. This is going to be one of those tournaments. It can be smallmouth. It could be largemouth. It could. Yeah, I mean, you've got so many. I don't know what it is about this lake, but there's high caliber fish up there. I mean, big fish.
And a lot of it, I feel like a lot of it has to do with the forage. We know that they eat a lot of trout. We know that they eat a lot, that the bait's really good for them and stuff. But like you just said, you could have somebody literally come in with an all brown fish, which we need to throw some props out to Ryan Pope, guys, coming in on Holston with just nothing but a greenfish bag is impressive, Pope.
Yeah.
But this one here, you could see all brown fish come in. You could see all green fish. You could see all spotted bass. You could see a mixture of all those. Like, what do you want to go target is the question.
Me personally,
yeah. What are you going to go target?
I am a smallmouth fisherman by heart, but I know up there those largemouth just get big.
They do, and it's hard. It's hard to say no to go and chasing those largemouth. I think my biggest thing is during the early part of the year, I like to fish below Butler Bridge, and I like to fish for smallmouth. Once I get to the end of May and get into June, I usually say bye-bye to those guys, and I definitely go up in the river.
Yeah.
So my question in my head is...
We're kind of hitting it in the middle.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like you're torn.
So it's like, do I start down there close to Fish Springs and look around for some smallmouth early, let the sun get up a little bit later in the day, which might position my largemouth a little bit better.
The lake is your clay, and you are the potter. Make it what you may.
The problem is I usually I hit that pedal too fast, and the clay just starts
Fling it
spinning everywhere, and then it's all over me. It just turns into a
Yeah.
big splat all over the
Yeah,
place.
no.
But that's what I'm thinking in my head right now. Like, go fish for some smallmouth early in the morning. They like low light around these areas. And then later on in the day, if we have a day where it's going to get sunny, go up there and look around docks, look around laydowns for those bigger largemouth that might be post-spawn coming out, or that might be pre-spawn going in, or whatever it may be.
Yes.
And just see. That's kind of my initial thought there. But let's talk about weights. What do you think about weights?
I'm still thinking that 18 to 20 pound bag
Okay.
up there. I'm shooting big. I think. I mean, I hate it wasn't me last time, but I
Yeah.
mean, I was still thinking
You
an
were there.
18 to 20 pound bag up there on Holston. So I mean, that's what I'm gonna stick with right now. That's,
Okay.
I mean, this time of year is
All
when
right,
you
so,
catch your big fish.
so you're saying 18 20 for the win.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to fall off really fast, or do you think we're going to have a little bit better, more consistent fish catches here, where we're going to have what's going to be third place? What's going to be that top 3 range? 18 to 20 for the win. What do you think is going to be third?
I think it's gonna take it for third.
For third, that first through third range.
I think there'll be a pretty good gap between.
You do?
I'm thinking, right around what we had this past time. 18 to 20 pounds. Second place will be somewhere. It could be somewhere close to that. I mean, I'm saying 15 to 17 pounds. I'm gonna give you a pound difference between there, and then after that, it's gonna be 10 to 12.
Okay.
So that's what I think my top 3 weights would be.
All right. I think I would love to see 18. I feel like you're going to see multiple bags in the 13 to 15 pound range.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to have some good quality and some good consistency with these bass. That time of year, as you get into the post spawn, it seems like a lot of them start to be cookie cutters. And if somebody can go out there and find them one big, somebody that got off the bed way early and they've already fed up, or they're still pre-spawn, they're going to have a good fish. But I look for potentially our big largemouth for the year.
Yes,
to be pulled out of here.
I mean, you got Guntersville still.
You do well up to this point. Up to this point. I feel like this one we could see our big bass for
I do agree.
largemouth
agree.
be reclaimed. Smallmouth is still potential. Like,
yeah, it's
I
starting
feel
to
like
weed itself out.
It
at this
is
time
like
of
this
year.
time of year. That March into April was kind of that best time to go out there and find
We'll readdress
that really
the
big
smallmouth in the fall.
Yeah, I know. You're still killing him, Crockett. It hurts his soul. It hurts his soul deep. But this one is also definitely a potential for the spotted bass.
Yes.
There are some monster spots up there. You get around bridge pilings, you get around laydowns, all those places up through there. You can find you some really, really big spotted bass to catch. So I look towards this being one of those places that we could totally change up all of our big bass leaders at this time. We know that the Winchesters do really well up there. I don't know if Kevin's going to come join us, if Kevin's going to fish with us. You know that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with up there. And again, as you get into May into June, it's wide open for people because so many different people are going to be able to fish their strengths and do things that they love. And it could just be going off. And I hope it is for us, guys. This will be our 4th event of the season, as I said. Then right after that, we're going to Guntersville for our out-of-town. That'll be our last day tournament here in this first part of the season. Then we get into our night tournaments on Douglas. But I'm really looking forward. I'm going to keep an optimistic mind. The thing is, keep that positive attitude and keep changing. These fish are constantly changing. You can find several stages of fish just simply going through one pocket on Watauga, because you can fish those laydowns and find them staging up or coming out, and then you can get into a clay area or a flat area and find them spawning and find them bedding. So really have an open mind when you go to Watauga. Really be thinking about what little nuances and changes. Keep your head in the game the whole time you're fishing up there. Don't just get out there and start throwing the same bait and going down the bank and stuff. That is a big key. Remember that you've got big largemouth up there. Don't be afraid to throw some bigger baits at them and go bigger for that stuff. We got our next meeting coming up the second second Monday. I do that a lot. I like Tuesdays. The second Tuesday in May. So guys, come join us for our meeting. We got a lot of things going on, a lot of good things. So we hope you all come out and join us and hang out. Great fellowship with the guys and gals that we have fishing with us. And we just look forward to adding new members. If y'all have not, jump onto YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Facebook watching, make sure that you like, you share, follow the page, guys. It's a huge support to Kelsey and I doing this, to see y'all jumping on there watching and sharing these things. So we look forward to hanging out with y'all. If y'all ever have any questions, drop them in the comments, send them to us later. We try to respond to them as best we can and get all those things out there to you all. So just make sure that you're interacting with us. And again, if you have things that you want us to talk about, certain topics that you want us to throw into the tips, tricks, and how-tos, throw those in there.
Yeah, come on, give it to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always needing something.
more information to go on and more to add to our lineup of stuff. So guys, we've really enjoyed this. We hope you all have as well. Get out there and fish for those spawning fish right now on South Holston, Watauga, Douglas, Cherokee. All these lakes are starting to fire up, starting to get good. You can go out there and have a lot of fun, have some fish, great fish catches and great times on the water. Hopefully we'll see y'all in May. See y'all in Watauga, guys. But we'll see y'all later, guys. Have a great one.
Take care.